most important topic to understand data structure in the later classes. We have been in this series or in this series of lectures, we have been looking at pointers at different angles. First, we have looked what is the data type. Then we have looked how pointers are declared. Then we have looked what actually is the relationship between pointers and arrays and pointers and character arrays. Today, wait a minute, I've got a call. Call. হ্যাঁ, আচ্ছা ঠিক আছে, তো তুমি এক কাজ করো, তোমার এটার মধ্যে সাইন করিয়ে আমারে পাঠাই দাও, মানে ফটো উঠাইয়া পাঠাই দাও। আমি পারলে যদি এখান থেকে হয় এখান থেকে জেরক্স করে দিয়া দিব, যদি না হয় তো নিজে মারি দিব আর। হ্যাঁ হ্যাঁ, বাস কই কই আইবো এটা? আসবে ঠিক না, তুমি এমনি পাঠাই দাও না, তুমি হোয়াটসঅ্যাপে লিখে পাঠাই দাও, আমি তোমার দিয়েই দিলাম। ফটো উঠাই পাঠাই দাও। হ্যাঁ, আমি আপাতত ইয়ে করে দিব, এটা চালাই দিব, দেখি এটা হয়। ঠিক আছে। Okay, I got a call and that is why I was not able to start. Okay, let's start. So I was telling that in this series of lectures we have seen pointers at different angles. Now today we'll be looking at another important topic which is known as dynamic memory allocation. So let's start. So this is our outline. We'll be looking at stack memory, heap memory, malloc, alloc, realloc and free. And let's start. Now consider this array declaration which stores the marks of 10 students in a particular subject. Now if I write, okay, is it visible first of all? Anyone who is not?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. So what happens is, if I write this statement int a in brackets 10, that means an integer which is of 4 bytes, has 10 elements. So in the memory there will be 10 locations will be reserved in a contiguous manner or in adjacent locations, and I can write or I can fill it up with whatever the values I feel or whatever the data I have in my hand. Now in such a declaration it would reserve 40 bytes. Why 40 bytes? Because one integer byte takes 4 bytes, and there are totally 10 number of students, so altogether 40 bytes of memory will be allocated in a contiguous memory location. And second one, the memory size thus allocated is during compilation and fixed, because whenever you declare this should be compiled, and at that compiled time itself this memory will be allocated and it will be fixed. In other words, you cannot change it, or you can say that array is a static memory allocation takes this. So these 2 or 3 things, all of them are same. So now you have 2 situations. What are those situations? Can you look at it? What are those situations? The first situation is you want to store marks of 5 students. So I have reserved 10 student. I have reserved the memory allocation for 10 students. Now out of the 10 student, you don't want to store all the marks of the 10 students. You want to only store the marks of 5 students. In this case, this leads to wastage of memory, because I have actually reserved 40 bytes. Now you are only using 20 bytes. Another situation is that storing marks of 20 students, in which case this leads shortage of memory. Why? Because you have already declared it for 10 students, but you actually need it for 20 students. These 2 cases may arise. Then how to do this? Because memory is an important resource and array is a static memory allocated data structure. Means the memory which is allocated is during compile time and it is fixed in nature. So in other words, you need a way to increase the memory of array during runtime. So this part is nothing but part is nothing but it is known as dynamic memory allocation. So what is dynamic memory allocation? So far you have learned that a basic data type or array is automatically managed, means whenever you declare it, it is managed by the compiler itself. So when you want to increase or decrease the size of array, you can do it. And to do this, you have to use a process called dynamic memory allocation. And this process actually occurs at runtime, not compile time. Remember. So to formally define dynamic memory allocation, this is the definition of dynamic memory allocation. A dynamic memory allocation is a manual allocation. Remember, previously it was done by compiler. Now it is the responsibility of the programmer to allocate the memory and to free the memory. So dynamic memory allocation is manual allocation and freeing of memory according to your programming needs. Dynamic memory is managed and served with pointers that point to the newly allocated memory space in an area, which we call heap. Don't confuse with heap, because we'll be learning heap in a short while. Now, to sum up the theory, it is nothing but the automatic memory management. That means whenever you declare something automatically, or int A, int B, int array, it uses stack. And the dynamic memory allocation uses heap. And these all functions are given in a header file known as stdlib.h. Now you have come across two confusing words or two confusing terms. One is stack and one is heap. So what are they and how they are related to dynamic memory? Let's understand this. Now, to understand this, this is the address space. Now, what do you mean by the address space? It means memory is an important resource, and the memory is actually allocated, although you look like that compiler is allocated to you, but this is not the case. Actually, memory is allocated by the operating system. For example, you may be working on a Windows operating system, somebody may be working on Linux operating system, somebody would be working in Mac operating system. So based on different operating system, your memory is allocated to you. Now this memory, or the memory which we receive as programmers, have four sections. What are these four sections? You have a text section. So this text area contains the program instructions or program's machine instruction, that is the executable code. The second part is global and static data. So global variables are defined in global scope, means if you need a variable in the whole application which you want for the whole lifetime of the application, then you have to define outside any function, and these variables are known as global function. Similarly, static variables have the keyword static, and this memory, this global and static memory, actually holds these global and static variables. Then third is stack, as we have already seen. Stack, or sometimes it is called runtime stack, contains all the automatic or non-static variable. Fourth is, you can see there is a free space, and this space allows the stack to grow or heap to grow. Fifth one is the heap, and memory is allocated from the heap with four, actually there are four functions, but mostly we'll be using malloc function, calloc function, and free function respectively in C language. So let's start understand in detail how this works and how this whole thing comes into the picture when you are writing a program. Okay. Wait a minute. Is it visible?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Okay. Okay. Now, as I have told that whenever you write a program, a memory is allocated to you by the operating system, to the compiler, and compiler allocates to you an application memory. Here application means your program's memory. So your program memory is divided into 4 sections. What are these 4 sections? One is the code or text section, then there is a static section and global section, then there is a stack, and there is something called heap. So in code section, all the instructions which you write is written in sequence by sequence manner. So this is where all the sequence of instructions are written. You already know global variables. I just told what global variables are. Global variables are those variables which you need in lot of different functions in lot of different places. So you need to declare global outside any function. So those are global functions. For example, pi, the value of pi's value is 3.14. So you may be using in a radius of a circle, or you may be using in some other thing, some other function. So pi may be used in different functions. So you can make sure that pi is a global variable which may be used in different function at different times. Then you have something called stack, which actually stores the function calls and the local variables. Both are also known as automatic variables or automatic functions. Okay, and finally, heap will look at a different place. Now, to understand the concept, we have written a program. The program, it doesn't do anything very special. What it is doing, whenever you are looking at a program, first you start looking at the main function. Don't worry about the all the other functions what you have. So where is the main function? It is at the below, at the bottom. So in this bottom, what the programmer or we have done is we have declared two integer variables. One is a is equals to 4, the other one is b is equals to 8. Now we are asking, there is a total variable. So where is total written? Total is written outside every other function. You can see in the top, after stdio.h, we have written total. So total is nothing but it's a global variable. Remember, total can be accessed by this function, total can be accessed by this function. Now, what next instruction was total is equals to square of sum, and we have passed a and b. What is square of sum? Square of sum is nothing but it's a function. So moment the control comes here, it kind of pauses the main function and it goes to square of sum. Here a and b, whatever we have passed, will be copied into x and y respectively. Then what we are doing, we are again declaring one integer z variable, local variable in this function, and then again we are making a call, that is square x plus y. Now this x and this y you already know is nothing but a and b, and the addition of this is been passed to here, that is another function known as square. Here int x receives what is the addition of x plus y. Remember, this x and this x are different. They are not the same thing. And what it is returning? It is returning the square of this x, x into x. Once it finishes, it comes back to the calling function. This was the calling function. Then once it finishes, it comes into the main function, because main function is the one which actually called square of sum. And finally, it prints out. So I guess this program is understandable. Now, to understand this in other words, let's see, or let's take the idea of stack, what actually happens. Now, as we have already discussed, stack stores what? Stack stores two things. One, the automatic variables and the function calls. So what is the first thing that will come into stack? In the stack, as I have already told, that you should start with main function. So main will be given apart from the stack memory, and this memory, in this memory, apart from main, total is also given to the global section. You can see this. Now in the main memory, what in the main function, what is the next step? We have two integer variables. So int a, int b will also be given here. So before we go into int a, int b, there is something called, you have to understand stack frame. Stack frame is nothing but the memory or the segment of memory that is available to a particular function. the segment of memory that is available to a particular function is nothing but stack frame. So this is the stack frame of main. This much memory is being given to main. Now, what are the two local variables it has? A and B. So it also has A and B in the stack frame of main. Apart from main, then it calls what? It calls square of sum. Square of sum. So we have written in shortcut SOS, and in SOS there are three local variables. What is int x, int y, and int z? So you can see in this stack frame of square of sum, we have the function call and x, y, z. Then you have what? Then you have square. So now this is again a shortcut of the square function. Square function is given and one local variable x is also been allocated. So this is the stack frame of square function. This one is the stack frame of the SOS function, and this is the stack frame of the main function. Now, at any given point in the stack, only the topmost function, in this case square function, will be running, and all the other function will be paused. So we kind of written this is a play button. This means this one is executing, and these are pause button, which these are paused. These functions are paused at that moment. Now, once square finishes, let's suppose it finds out what is the final value of x square. So once it finishes, it comes down to the next function, like this star represents. Now it is executing the calling function. That means it has called square x plus y. So now it resumes. So the moment it resumes, the previous square function will be deleted from the stack frame, and now this would be the part which is now executing, and main will be kind of paused. Finally, once square of sum finishes, it comes down to the main function. Now main executing. After this total statement, there is one more function call. This printf is nothing but a function only. So printf, again another printf function will be opened in the stack frame. It will execute whatever the things is there inside printf, and it will come back to the main function again. Now once main is finished, everything will be clear. Did you get the idea? Anyone?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Anyone having any doubt? Did you get the idea that how stack is working?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, so sir. Now you have already understood that in stack there are three things that goes. What is the three things? The first thing is local variable and the function calls. Secondly, only the topmost function in the stack runs at a time. Other functions are, what to say, are kind of paused. And paused. And thirdly, whenever the function finishes, compiler or the operating system automatically deallocates the memory which has been allocated in the stack frame, or the stack frame is deallocated. Now these three things, just remember these three things in your mind, because now we'll be coming to heap in a little while. So before we come, let's suppose operating system, this is a logical example. Don't think that is an actual example. So let's suppose the operating system has given your stack 1 MB of memory. Now let's suppose there are multiple methods, like A is calling B, B is calling C, C is calling D, D is calling E. Now if E is calling F or some other function, your stack finishes. Because why? Because stack is fixed, as I've already told. This is a fixed memory. It cannot grow or shrink. All right. So once E up to E, your memory exhausts. Now, if E in turn calls another function, let's suppose it calls F, then your stack gets an error known as stack overflow, or in other words, your program crashes. Many a times you may have come across this situation that your program is crashing, your Windows is crashing. Why this is happening? Because your stack frame is exhausted. It is finished. So that is why whenever you try to buy a system or what to say, laptop, always go for which has the largest RAM memory is there. because the moment you have low RAM memory, you may come across this situation quite often. Even you have to remember this concept while doing the programming as well, that whether you need the stack for doing the things or whether you need heap, because heap is actually related to dynamic memory. Until now we have only looked at the static memory, not the dynamic memory. Now coming to heap, as we have already seen that stack is only looking for static memory allocation. Heap, on the other hand, is nothing but is a free store or free pool of memory which can grow and shrink. But this has two properties. One property is that only the programmer, that is us, will be able to allocate the memory via pointers. Remember, there is no other way, via pointers. And secondly, as you have seen in the stack, once the function finishes executing, the stack frame of that function is removed from the stack. But in here, this is not the case. As you have allocated, now this is the responsibility of the programmer to deallocate the memory as well. So you have to be very careful when you are using heap. So how do you use heap? In C, there are 4 functions: malloc, calloc, realloc, and free. And in C++, which is a superset of C, you use new and delete. So malloc, calloc, realloc are nothing but functions, whereas new and delete are operators. Malloc, calloc, realloc, free will also work in C++ because C++ is the superset of C. So if you're using C++, you can use everything. But if you are using C language, you only have to worry about malloc, calloc, realloc, and free. So as our data structure classes will be going through C, we'll be looking at C language only. So we are mostly interested in malloc, calloc, realloc, and free functions. Remember, these are functions. These are not operators. So let's see. Now, once I declare int a, where it goes into stack, right? So in stack, what happens? A main function, a main stack frame of the main is allocated, and a is also been allocated some memory. You know how much memory will be allocated to a. How much?
4 bytes.
4 bytes. Exactly 4 bytes. Yeah. And then if I write something like this, int star p. What is int star p?
Pointer.
Pointer. Don't say simply pointer. It's a pointer to
Integer pointer.
integer pointer or pointer to integer. Yes, it is integer pointer. So once I write this integer star p, where actually it is allocated? Stack or heap?
Stack.
Exactly. It is a local variable. Remember, everything, whatever is local, it is allocated in stack. Okay. Okay, here we are going, before writing this, we also have to understand what is this. As we have already seen, there is a function called malloc. So you can use malloc in this way. Size of int. What is the size of int? It is 4 bytes. So 4 bytes of memory will be allocated, or contiguous block of memory of 4 bytes will be allocated in heap, and this allocation, it actually returns an address of the base. That means it returns only the base address. So you have to collect the base address somewhere. So where I have to collect? P, because P is a pointer and pointer can collect the addresses. But what kind of pointer is P? It is an integer pointer. So you have to somehow convert whatever the address that has been passed by heap into an integer pointer. So this is nothing but this is a typecasting. I have already shown you what is a typecasting. When you want to convert from one data type to another data type, then you have to typecast. So as this only passes a void pointer, you have to convert into an integer pointer. Now what happens after these two statements? A p, that is a pointer p, will be allocated a memory in the stack frame, and let's suppose its base address is 200 in the heap, and some memory from the heap will be allocated and will be pointed or will be initialized to where? P. So P kind of make a connection to the heap. Did you get the idea what this two statement is doing?
Yes.
Okay, so P has the
Sir,
address
once more,
of.
sir.
Uh-huh.
Once more, sir.
Once more. Okay. Just look at these two statements. Int star P. Int star P is nothing but this P. This P. Don't worry about 200 right now. Think that this is another variable, but this is an integer pointer variable or pointer to an integer variable. Now, the very next statement says malloc. As I've already told you, if you want to allocate any memory from the heap, you have to use one of the four functions. What are the four functions? Malloc, calloc, realloc, and free. So currently we are looking at malloc function. What is a malloc function? Malloc function actually allocates 4 bytes of memory. Why 4 bytes? Because in the argument of malloc, I have written size of int. What is the size of an integer variable? It is 4 bytes. So 4 bytes of memory will be allocated in heap. But can you access this address? No, you can't, because heap only returns a base address. So as you already know, as per the definition of a pointer, pointer is a special kind of variable which stores address of another variable. What heap returns? Address. So you have to store this address in some kind of pointer. All right. So, but when heap returns this address, heap doesn't know what kind of data will be stored. What kind of data will be stored in this part. So what heap does is it simply pass a void pointer. That means a pointer without any data type. Now, without any data type, if I send an address, so you need to convert this data type into integer pointer. Why? Because you want to keep an integer value inside it. Why? Because you have written P is a kind of integer pointer. So in this way, this makes a connection. That means P gets the base address. Let's let's assume that this is the base address of this heap memory which is being allocated is 200. So 200 P will be having a value of 200. Now when I write star P, that is my value at address P is equals to 10. Now 10 will be written. If you don't do this typecasting int star, you won't be able to write this 10 here. Why? Because heap doesn't know what kind of data will be. So if I have to store a character value
your
here.
voice is lagging. Sir,
My
your voice is lagging. Yeah, so the last 2 minutes maybe, whatever you said, your voice was lagging, so that was not clear, sir.
Okay, fine. Let me do it once again.
Yes, sir.
We were here. Is it audible? Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Am I audible? Okay. Remember these two statements, whatever we have done. This is, I guess, this up to this second statement, it is clear that a P value goes into stack. That is meant integer pointer P goes into stack. Okay. And I have already told that malloc function allocates memory from the heap, but it simply doesn't allocate the memory. You have to give how much memory you need. So in the bracket or in the bracket, you can see I have written size of int. Size of int is nothing but it's an operator, and it's a way of telling the compiler that this much memory I want to allocate from the heap. Now I already know that integer pointer or integer variable takes 4 bytes of memory. This 4 bytes of memory will be allocated here. Will be allocated in the heap. Okay, wait a minute. So go back. This 4 bytes of memory will be allocated in the heap with the base address 200. Now tell me one thing. Does heap know what kind of value you want to store here?
No, sir.
At
No,
this
sir.
point, does heap know what kind of value will be stored? You may store a character value because it only has given an area or allocated an area. It doesn't know what kind of value will be stored. All right. So you may store a floating value, you may store a character value, you may store an integer value. Now, what it does, it simply returns an address which is of type void pointer. Void pointer are those pointer which can hold the address, but it cannot write into this address. That means it doesn't know how to use star variable on this. So if you want to write something on site here, because you won't be allocated a memory to particular value unless and until you store something, right? You won't be allocating a memory without storing something. You will be allocating something to use it. Now, as heap doesn't know what kind of value or what value will be stored here, it simply passes the address. You need to typecast that address, or you need to convert that address to your required type. That means what kind of data you want to write. What kind of data I want to write? I want to write an integer data. So if I want to write an integer data, I have to convert into an integer pointer. How to convert? Using typecasting. Now, when I say star p is equals to 10, at this point of time, 10 is written inside the heap. Now, if I make another call, what happens? Same thing happens. Another 4 bytes of memory is allocated. Another 4 bytes of memory is allocated. Let's suppose its base address is 4, and I initialize it with the p. That is, p is my integer pointer. Now, p does not have 4 or 200 at this moment. It has 500. Now, tell me whether the memory which we allocated earlier, that is 10, which is written 10. Wait a minute. Which is written 10 here, 10 value 10. Whether it will be there or not in the heap.
It will be there, sir.
It will be there. Yes, it will be there. So what the point I was to make was, whenever you are allocating any memory in the heap, it is the responsibility of your or the programmer to deallocate the memory if you are not using it anymore. So the better way to do this is to write another function known as free p. P is the previous memory. So in this case, the 10 will be deallocated. 10 will be deallocated, and then P will be making a connection with 20. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Is this clear now?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
okay,
sir.
okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay, shall I go ahead?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So next. So we'll be now dealing with malloc, alloc, realloc, free in great detail. See, we can allocate block of memory using 3 functions known as malloc, alloc, and realloc. And you can deallocate block of memory using another function known as free. We have already seen malloc and malloc and free. Let's see what happens or what is the syntax of each of this. Now let's start with malloc. Now this is the syntax of malloc. What is this? This is the syntax of malloc. Now, if you look at very carefully, in the malloc has a return type of what? Void star. What do you mean by void star?
No return type.
Its return type is void star. What do you mean by void star?
Void pointer.
Yes, void pointer. Now, what do you mean by void pointer? Anyone? You know.
Return nothing.
Okay. Integer pointer is what? A pointer to an integer, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Float pointer means what? A pointer to a float value. Similarly, character pointer is nothing but a pointer to a character value. Now, in all this, if you look at very carefully, you are actually storing the address. Nothing more than that. Now, there may be certain cases where you only need to know the address, but you do not need to know the value, like in heap section, because heap doesn't know what kind of value will be stored. So it only passes the address. Now, this address can be modified or can be typecasted to what kind of value you want to store. So that is why it is sending a generic pointer known as void pointer. This is the return type. Malloc is the name of the function, and size underscore t. If you are unaware of this thing, this is nothing but this is a kind of data type, and this data type only allows positive integers. In other words, you can say unsigned integers. If it is unsigned, that means it does not have any sign. Which numbers does, if a number does not have any sign, is it a positive or negative number? It's a positive number. So only positive values, because memory cannot be negative, so only positive values will be allowed. This is the data type. Remember, this is the data type. And size, how much amount you want to allocate, what is the amount of memory you want to allocate. This is what malloc syntax look like. As we already seen, what is a void pointer. Let's suppose this is the memory or the heap memory, in other words, and it is divided into segments, and each segment is of 1 byte, and the lowermost segment has 200 as the memory address, and it increases like 201, now 208 here, 2012 here, 206, 2116 here, okay, 216 here. Now when I say malloc 4, is it a valid statement? Anyone?
Yes, sir.
Is it a valid statement? What do you mean by 4 here?
4 bytes.
4 bytes. So remember, 4 bytes are allocated in the memory. And now if you look at here in the left hand side, I have declared void star p. What do you mean by void star p?
No return type.
No, void star p is a void pointer.
Pointer to a void.
Pointer to a void you can't say. It always be remember the technical words. It is called void pointer or generic pointer. All right. Now tell me whether this assignment is correct or not. Can you do this kind of assignment or not? Look at the syntax and then you tell me. Malloc is the name of the function. I've used malloc. You have told me to use a positive value. I have used a positive value, that is 4. And you have already told me that malloc returns a void pointer. So I've created one void pointer, and I have allocated the memory which is allocated by malloc. Is it correct?
Yes, sir, but not sure.
Yes. It is
Yes, sir.
perfectly all right. This is correct. Now, what is the problem in this? If you try to print P, what you will get?
Garbage.
No. Print P. What P contains now?
Address.
Address. Which
208.
address? Ah,
208.
yes, exactly. It will be having 208. All right. Now, instead of 4, as you do not know, in some compilers, integer is of, like some older compilers, integer is of 2 bytes. All right. And in some modern day compiler, integer of 4 bytes. To make the program flawlessly correct or without any error, always use size of int, because this is a very good practice, using size of int. Size of is an operator, and depending on your compiler and operating system, it actually gives you how much size, what is the size of int in your operating system or in your compiler. So as I've already told, modern day compiler always uses 4 bytes. So it is always a good practice to use the size of operator for allocating any kind of data type or any kind of memory. So instead of writing 4 directly, always use size of int, because you may not know that whether your system allocates 2 bytes of memory to the integer or 4 bytes of memory to the integer. But using size of will ensure that whatever the kind of memory is allocated to integer will be allocated here. All right. Now, Next thing, if you want 10 number of elements, that means an array of 10 elements, an integer array of 10 elements, you can simply do 10 into size of it. So how much total memory will be allocated?
40 bytes.
40 bytes, which we have seen in the very first slide. All right. Now, this is the number of elements and this is the size of 1 unit. So this is the way of allocating a memory or allocating an array dynamically. This is a dynamic memory allocation of an array. Okay. If we use 3, then how much memory will be allocated?
12 bytes.
12 bytes. So let's see, 3 has been given. 12 bytes of memory, if you look at this position from 201 to 2012 has been allocated. All right. Now, here, if you print B, now print P will be 201. Am I right?
Yes, sir.
Because 201 the base address. Okay. Now, can I write star P equal to 2?
No, sir. You did not specify integer or not. Typecasting was not done.
Typecasting was not done because you have created a void pointer. Void pointer can only hold the address, but it cannot write into the address. So to make sure your value is been written in this area, you have to typecast whatever the malloc sends you. So now it will be doing. We are creating int star p, and at the same time we are making integer star. This is typecasting. Now if you write star p is equals to 2, then it is correct. Now 2 will be written in the first 4 bytes. Star p plus 1. What is this?
The next address.
Next address. Now I have written 4. Star p plus 2 is the another address. So this 1 and 2 is nothing but size of 1 unit of data. So if p is 201, so the first 4 bytes, that is 201, 202, 203, 204 will be allocated to the value 2 or the binary equivalent of 2. Now when I write p plus 1, now p is already 201, and 1 here does not mean only 1. 1 means 1 unit of data. What was the unit of data? It was integer. So 1 unit means 4 bytes. So p plus 4, that means 201 plus 4 is what?
205.
205. So from 205, 206, 207, 208, number 4 will be written, and from 209 to 2012, 6 will be written. This is a syntax which you can use for dereferencing pointers. The another syntax we have already know that in the array you can use in this fashion. Both these syntax are correct, or you can say both syntax are alternate syntaxes of each other. Nothing more than that. P0, P1, P2. You can use anything. But remember, this can be used. Why I am saying this again and again? Because these kind of questions comes in GATE computer science. So if anybody is interested in higher studies, or if anybody is interested in, even though in software companies also, when they take aptitude or kind of C++ examination, they will always ask this, whether you know it or not. So you have to understand what is the alternate syntaxes of each and everything. Okay. Now Calloc. If you look at Calloc has a very similar syntax as a malloc, but only difference is it takes two arguments. The first argument is size underscore t num, and second argument is as like malloc. So what is this size underscore t num? Can anybody have a guess? Hello? Nobody?
Sorry, sir, I didn't get you.
Huh?
I didn't get you, sir.
I'm asking, if you look at Calloc and malloc syntaxes, they are similar. The only difference is malloc is taking only one argument, and Calloc is taking two arguments. Now, if you look at the arguments of calloc, the second argument is same as like malloc. What is the first argument? Can anybody guess what is this first argument?
Value stored in the address.
Okay, now in the previous, just before that, we have used 3 number of elements into size of a unit. What they have done is, instead of writing in this fashion, instead of this star, they have used a comma. So you can write 3 here, and that is the number of elements and the size. This is the way. The same thing could be, whatever the thing we have written in malloc, the same thing could be written in calloc using this notation or this syntax. Is this clear?
Yes, sir.
Is the number of elements and this is the size of the data type in bytes. Same thing. Another difference between calloc and malloc is malloc doesn't initializes the address space, but calloc, it initializes with 0. So we'll see this in a little bit in a while. Realloc, again, look at the realloc syntax. It also returns a void pointer. Its name is realloc. Now it has 2 things: void pointer and size t. Size underscore t is equals to size. Now, when you say realloc, what actually you mean? You
Reallocate.
reallocate. So you either want to extend your memory or you want to shrink your memory. Am I right? This may be the 2 cases. Either you want to extend it or you want to shrink it. Now let's suppose an array is there of 10 elements. Now you may want to make the array of 20 elements. That means you are extending the array, or you can make the array to 5 elements so that it can only hold the array of 5 elements. So in both the cases, you first have to give which array you want to start with. So for that, you have to give the address of the base address of the array. So this base address is given here, and how much size you want to change, this is the part of size you have to give. So we'll see this in a little while. Let's do something in the programmatically. Now, if you write, okay, everybody is in their laptop or what?
Some in mobile.
Okay. So whatever it is, try to do this program on your own in your laptop. Okay, I'm just giving you an idea. Now I have created integer n, and then I have used 2 statements: printf, the size of the array, and scanf, the size of the array in the address of n. You already know, na? The ampersand is nothing but address of n. So now, can you write something like this?
No, sir.
Yes, sir, or no, sir?
Yes, sir. No, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes,
No, sir. No, sir.
It cannot be written. Why it cannot be written? Why it cannot be written?
It's static in compiler. It's static.
Yeah, compiler needs to know the whole memory of whole size of an array beforehand. You cannot give the size of the array at runtime, take the value of n, and then you try to incorporate this memory into the array. This will give you an error. This won't work. So that is why array is static memory. But if you really want to create an array dynamically, what you can do is, now it will work or not? Tell
Yes,
me.
sir.
Yes,
sir. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Whether it will work? Tell me
Yes,
very
sir.
clearly. Is something
Yes,
is
sir.
missing or not?
Sir, typecasting.
Typecasting is missing. It won't work. Now it will work. Check the previous. I have not typecasted. That is why malloc has been given a red line if you look at very carefully, because it is not typecasted. Now once I typecast, malloc does not have any red line, and this is dynamically allocated memory. You can give how much size at runtime. In runtime only it will allocate the memory for your array, and the name of the array is nothing but A. And make sure this A is integer array. You can make character array as well, but for simplicity we are using integer. Now to fill up all the elements, all the values of array, so you can use a for loop. Int I equal to 0, I is less than ni plus plus, and I plus 1 is nothing but the first location will be given the value of 1, the second location will be given the value 2, and so on. And to print, you can use one more for loop. If you can look, there are two for loops. This is one for loop and this is the second for loop. I am here printing out. Now if I give the size of the array 10, these are the values it is printing: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Is this clear?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Is it understandable? Okay, fine. You can also use, if you are using enter the size 25, you can have all the values of 25. This is how it looks like. Now just change malloc into calloc, right? What are the changes you have to do?
Comma.
Yes, you only have to do the comma, that's all. This n will be same, the size of int will be same. Is this clear? Int will be same, size of int will be same. Now if you try to run this, okay, wait a minute. Now I have already told that even though if you don't initialize this, that means in the for loop malloc is initialized with some values. Now if you don't initialize, or if you remove this for loop, in case if you are using calloc automatically initializes the values. Just look at the thing. I have removed the first for loop here and I'm just printing the value. What is the value I am getting? All zeros. Why? Because it initializes all the elements to 0. So this is one more difference between malloc and calloc. But if you try to do the same thing using malloc, now this time I've changed it to malloc and I'm just printing. Now at this side you are getting some garbage values. Are you looking at it?
Yes, sir.
Is
Yes,
it
sir.
understandable? Yeah. In
Yes, sir.
malloc it prints the garbage value, but in calloc what happens? It initializes it to the value 0. Now yeah, one more thing you have to do is, if you look at malloc and if you have initialized or if you have issued a statement free a, what will happen?
The heap containing A is gone.
Hmm?
A is gone from the heap. The values
Now,
of A.
okay, this needs to be a little bit of understanding. See, although I have told this free function is used to allocate is to deallocate the memory, but it is not a kind of command to the system. It is a kind of request. Now it is up to the system whether it deallocates at that point of time or it deallocates some other point of time. It is up to the system or up to the operating system. Now if you look at very carefully, for int ai equal to 0, ai is equals to I plus 1. This statement is given to initialize the values from 1 to 3, 4, 5, 6 to 10, 10 variable, whatever the n values is there. After that, a free statement or free command has been given, or free function is called, and you have passed the value a. Now, after this, if I print, what I should get? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 19, or whether should I get garbage values?
Garbage.
Okay.
Garbage.
Yes, I am getting some garbage values, but again, this is not correct. Why? Because you cannot use these values at all. Because once it is free, it is free. How can you access this? Even though it is garbage, but you are accessing somehow, right?
Yes, sir.
So this is a very important point or dangerous thing with pointers. Whenever you are using pointers with heap, make sure your whatever you are writing or whatever you are looking or whatever you are writing can go for a toss. So that is why there is another thing known as null. Okay. enter the size. Now this time I am getting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now if I write free A, after that I am asking make A2 is equals to 6. Still if you style to run, you can access this. So this is a very important thing. You can access this. So to remove this kind of anomalies, you can use something called null. After free, make A is equals to null. Null is nothing but A is not pointing anywhere. A is not pointing anywhere. One more thing, if you are asking malloc to allocate memory and your malloc doesn't allocate any memory to you because it doesn't find this much of contiguous memory in the heap, then it will return null. This is the uses of null. So always remember, whenever you are freeing something and you do not need this memory in your future, always free and then you adjust the pointer to null. Now what is realloc? Let's suppose I have allocated some amount of memory using malloc. Now I am using another array and I want to make the original array to twice of its size. Now this is how I am doing it. Now twice of its size means, as you can see, what was the syntax of realloc? Void pointer, it takes first argument was void pointer and the second argument was size. Now there may be two conditions. One condition is you want to extend the memory and the second condition is you want to shrink the memory. So in case of extension, let's suppose you have created the array of 10 integers or 5 integers. So if there is space available in the memory or in the heap, it may extend your original array. If there is not enough space or contiguous memory location, what it can do, it can create a separate array, copy all the elements from your previous array to your new array. Now if you try to do this, if you try to execute it, just think, okay, here what was my original array? A, and I want to increase the original array to twice its size. What was its original size? N into size of int. Now n into size of int into 2, that is twice its size, and then I want to print it. This is the way to print 2 into n. Previously it was I is less than n, now it is I is less than 2 into n. Why? Because it has become twice the size. Now before this we are also printing previous block address, that means previous array's address and the new address. So it is a way of telling that whether your original array is extended or whether your new array has been created. Now if you try to run this, okay, this memory, if you try to run this, in this case you will get, if this both the values are same, the previous block address and the new block address, if the both the values are same, then you can guarantee that your original array has been extended. If the both the values are not same, then you can guarantee that a new array has been created. Now this is way of extending. What is the way of shrinking? Now instead of 2n, now it is n by 2. Instead of 2n, it is n by 2. Now we are making it half. Okay, now we are making it half and you print it, whatever the value, it should be n by 2. It should not be n 2 into n, it should be n by 2. Okay, next, now I'm asking a question here. In the realloc, what is the first argument?
Pointer, which was
Pointer.
The original array pointer, original base address of the array, right? This is the first pointer, because you want to extend an array. What is the next pointer, or what is the next argument? how much size. Am I right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. If I make it 0, what will happen? The second pointer.
It will deallocate.
Hmm? It will
Deallocate.
deallocate means what?
Whatever pointer was there, it will
It
remove
will
it.
deallocate. So you can say it is equivalent to free.
Yes, sir.
It is an equivalent. This is another way of writing free. This is an equivalent to free. Now, another question is, if you write the initial, previously we have written A, right? In the reallocation. If you write null, and then in the second part, if you give n into size of int, what will happen? Base address is null, and you are giving a size. What will happen?
Error.
Error. No, it's not an error. Think of it. The first argument, as you have already seen, we need the base address. Now, instead of base address, I'm giving null. I don't have any
It
address.
will work like malloc.
Yes, it will work like malloc. This will work like malloc. This is equivalent to malloc. Anybody have any question?
No, sir.
Is there any doubt? Any doubt? Because you have to do this in your system. Otherwise, it will take a toll on you. Try to do these programs of malloc, calloc. Try to allocate memory from the heap. Then try to print it out, whatever the values, initialize with some values, then print it out, then use calloc, then print it out. Then you try to change the size of the memory that is allocated by malloc and calloc using realloc, and use free. But after free, you also make sure that the pointer is now pointing to none, nowhere, and you initialize with null. So if you do this, then only you will be able to have a feel of malloc and calloc, and it will come very frequently when you start with linked list, stack, and queue. And that time I want me in your what's the group. I can say again, but make sure you are doing this program on your own first. Is this clear now? Anybody
Yes,
having
sir.
any doubt? Any doubt? Any doubt? So I ask you to write this program. Okay, I'm giving you in your copy right now. I'm giving these programs to you. This is about malloc, right? Oh. Okay. Write this program first in your copy. If you have copy in your hand, please write it down, or at least you take the photograph if you have a mobile in your hand. Done?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Next. take a photograph of this free function, but you still can access this. So change A to null. Okay. Now this one, take a photograph of this one. Now take a photograph of this one. What is this? This is a realloc to double the size of array. So till this I have shown you. You have to create the program to size or half the size or make it half of its original size of the array. You have to do it on your own using realloc. Okay. If you know how to create or how to double it or twice the size of the array, or the original size, you making twice the size of this array using realloc, you can also do how to make half the size of the original array. All right. So the second part of realloc, you have to do it on your own. Have you taken the photograph of this?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So in the next class, I'm stopping here. In the next class, I may want to see your laptops with with these programs, and let's see how much you have learned. Okay. And we'll be learning, next part is complexity and recursion. So let's see which one I should go for. Okay, I'll go with recursion first, and then we'll go with complexity. Okay.
Yes, sir. Sir, it's 1:30. Where's the lab classes? I'm not sure what to do about it.
These are the programs you can do it in your lab classes.
Okay, sir. Should we ask the lab staff
Or Navo sir, no, what you
Yes,
want to
sir.
ask?
about the lab classes? Will it be held or not?
Okay, you ask them. You ask him. You tell him that Sodish sir has given some program. So should we do the programs and send you the screenshot of the output? Or you can also give your program code and send it to him via WhatsApp or via mail. That
Okay,
means
sir.
you need to share two things: the program code and the output screenshot of the output,
Okay, sir.
along with your roll number and name. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So you ask him before you do it. Please ask him. It's better.
Yes, sir. Yes.
So with this, I'm stopping today. We'll meet on Tuesday. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Sir,